Another week, another curtain jerker with a terrible sound mix. However, comparing the audio quality of Soldier of the Apocalypse to any film would be like comparing the sound engineering skills of Andy Milligan to David Lynch. Ugh. I'm hearing the flat dialogue of Street Racer loud and clear through my speakers is basically what I'm saying. Street Racer is a Speed Racer ripoff in name, but a Fast and Furious clone in all other aspects, from the nu metal and LA hip-hop soundtrack to the strikingly similar looking Paul Walker stand-in protagonist. Unfortunately, Street Racer, like near all Asylum films that I have seen, is neither exploitative enough to be stupefyingly mesmerizing, inept enough to be a content goldmine, or in any which way enough of a spectacle to be a worthwhile watch. Sherlock Holmes remains still to be the sole exception to the rule, as it becomes depressingly clear, depressingly quickly, that Street Racer is another Lifetime movie with delusions of blockbusting and has no interest whatsoever of any deviation. The most hilarious moments come in every single scene involving a speeding vehicle, as the editing style of the Fast and Furious films is homaged on a shoestring budget rather than the near limitless resources of a studio editing system. It was a doleful reminder for me of the now near 4-decade monopoly of the Big Six, soon to be Big Five, film studios, whose insipid, accountant-led philosophy has spread like a cancer to every single corner of the industry worldwide. Street Racer has some decent storytelling, I begrudgingly admit. Some character actors in the supporting cast do a good job in giving their scenes gravitas. However, the drama stops there, as the rest of the film drowns out this goodwill with the kind of sentimental gush that permeated every other youth-marketed film of the time. An after-school special masquerading as escapism. I fucking puke. The Asylum is an exploitation film production house that plays it safe to an insufferable degree, and Street Racer is their atypical product. It is toothless, digital video schlock, with no exploitation elements to hold interest and way too much investment in its lackluster, mirth-inducingly moralistic screenplay. Transporter Refuelled was a 2015 reboot of the franchise that once rivaled Fast and Furious in the 2000s, but lay dormant within daytime television after Transporter 3 saw too great a diminished return. Jason Statham was replaced by Ed Sheeran, and amazingly, fans bitched about it, let alone notice, so the film did not break even in America and just about made a profit through worldwide sales. Not exactly a triumphant return, which is probably the reason why we have not heard diddly shit of the Transporter series since. None of which I get, because what I saw in the Transporter Refuelled was good action filmmaking bolstered by strong character development centered around a protagonist that has had over 10 years worth of layers put upon him. What can I say? I stopped counting the clock and enjoyed myself. For a while at least. Transporter Refuelled is entertaining with its balance of pulpish storytelling and dynamic spectacle. The plot is complex, though not complicated, and there are attempts at character development which I appreciate. The camera work is overbearingly shaky at times, and the editing is a little hyperactive though. Also, the action scenes, while entertaining, are not realistic in the slightest, literally flying over the rules of gravity. So the film does feel to be stuck in the 2000s where it matters the most. However, the focus on character makes this improbability more tolerable than it was in the predecessors. Or does it? I don't know, I've never seen them. It does feel very 2010s though, to take pulp storytelling very super seriously, and Refuelled appears to be a mix of old and new blockbuster trends. I can probably see now why this film did not light up the box office. It's mediocre. Despite all the good I've said, it's still as much of a needless fight between Hollywood superhero movie and restrained European thriller, and the result is, obviously, very fucking stupid. Whether the intent or not was to laugh during some scenes, the over-reliance on cliches, both visual and narrative, which is now par the course for the Luc Besson brand, makes the distinction between irony and incompetence very unclear. In conclusion, more effort needed to be put into Transporter Refuelled to make people care about the franchise again, but since all people give a fuck about now is IPs from their childhood, This was going to be a futile task no matter what. I feel somewhat sorry for the film, but I can still see it as a prime example of one of France's most famous action directors and his entourage resting on their laurels and not really trying to keep up with their times. I believe the words I'm looking for are above average. So, here we are. Another asylum film. That's not what it says it is. Only this particular example is exceptionally egregious. It is unfathomable why a post-Sharknado asylum would promote a 70s style disaster film as a Fast and Furious clone. It makes no sense at all. It's almost as stupid as the film itself. I say almost. The only reason why someone would not make Airplane references whilst watching this bird-brainer would be that they never saw Airplane, and even if they didn't, they'd still know on instinct that this is a bunch of cliched bollocks. Something suggests to me that this whole film is a troll. That the disaster film tropes are so concisely played out to the letter that this is some misguided attempt at parody, which is stupid, by the way, if that happens to be true. Another explanation for this piece of crap is that someone at the asylum has a hard-on for disaster movies and felt like releasing one in the year of our Lord 2017, and somehow convinced people that it was a good idea for a production house that could not produce establishing shots without the aid of animation software to try and pull this off. These films in the 70s made profit solely on spectacle and their ensemble star cast. They were a desperate attempt by studios at the time to get one up on the kind of high-returning, low-budget genre movies the asylum has been making since the Genesis, or at least what they think they've been making. These movies were always stupid and absurd, and it was only their excessive budgets that drew audiences in and kept them there. Not like the asylum would clock this, or even care if they did. They are the mockbuster guys after all, supreme hucksters. But when this blithe overconfidence is coupled with gross mismarketing and Sharknado levels of absurdity, uncoupled from that film's sense of irony as well, the result is one of the worst asylum films I've ever sat through. I can't remember the last time I cared so less. I disengaged so completely from a direct-to-DVD movie. I thought I had built up an immunity towards low-budget banality, but nope. I can barely remember anything from this film apart from several utterly witless plot twists and an antagonist too effectively snide to be in a film this unintelligent. It was a brain drain watching The Fast and the Fierce, a film seemingly allergic to logic, realism, and even reason. One that relies independently upon the audience's conviction of the severe danger the scenario presents, and yet was so lazily written, the result becomes a feature film so packed with statements of pure anti-realism, so earnestly presented, it could be the centerpiece of a video lecture on climate change denial. This was shit. Right. So, to sum up this high-speed episode, Street Racer serves as a good reminder of the kind of films that put Blockbuster out of business. Transporter Refuelled is a dated action mini blockbuster that still manages to be entertaining amidst all the Gen X malaise, and The Fast and the Fierce is a modern day disaster film that no one was asking for, especially those who will buy the film on the cover alone. Dumb shits. If you have stayed awake throughout this slog, I appreciate it greatly. Please support this self-destructive behaviour by liking this film, leaving a comment like one would a turd in a toilet bowl, and by subscribing because we all need friends, right? Right? Thank you.